Okay, it's time for a funny story. I about drove myself nuts with this, so I'm going to share this story with you. And at the end of the video, I'm going to ask for some help from you guys. I desperately need some help with this situation. First, the funny story. As you can see, there's a little shelf back there, a floating shelf. I tried to make a video building these things, but I was just going to use my phone. It was just giving me fits. It kept shutting off all the time. Come to find out, it would really help if you empty the SD card so it could have a place to put the video. That was my fault. But here's a little video of me putting the thing on the wall. Now the thing about these, I wouldn't put a ton of weight on these. If you built them out of steel, maybe, but you know, there's a lot of leverage on against your wall right there where you mount these things. So they're not going to be for a lot of weight. What little I'm going to put on them, they should work fine. They're great for decorative purposes. They look good for that. I've got one over here underneath our TV that's out here, and this one up here. I wanted somewhere to put my little call sign display that my wife got me a number of years ago. Maybe it was the kids that got it for me. My older ones, I think, I don't know. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong. I don't remember yesterday, let alone that long ago. Anyway, I mounted these things, and then the very next day I noticed I would go out into our tack room, or that evening, was it the next evening? Anyway, either the evening after or the same evening I installed these things, I noticed the lights are not working in our tack room, which they feed off of a circuit in here, which also, it just happens to be the same circuit that feeds the TV on the wall where I mounted the other floating shelf. And I'm like, oh man, are you kidding me? I go in and check the breaker and it's popped. I'm like, this is not good. I wonder if I drilled a screw into the Romex when I installed that thing, and that's the reason it popped that breaker. So I flip the breaker, bam, it goes right back off. Like, oh man, are you kidding me? I'm not going to deal with this tonight. I'll look at this tomorrow. So I come back out the next day, and I flip the breaker, and it's fine. I'm like, what in the world? So now I'm really worried that I've got a screw into some Romex. It's just barely making contact. Just enough that it popped the breaker, but now it's not making enough, and it's going to get hot. It's going to be this constant problem in there. It's going to create a bunch of heat, catch a stud on fire, and the office is going to burn down. For 2 days, I was worried about this, just fretting over it. I wouldn't leave this room without turning the breaker off. I'd turn it on during the day, and then I'd go feel the wall. I was checking for voltage on the screws, checking to see if maybe they made contact with ground. I couldn't find that any of them had made contact. Like, what in the world's going on? This is driving me nuts. And it finally dawns on me, there's outlets on the outside of the tack room out there, and maybe I ought to go check those, make sure there's not something hinky going on out there. I go look, everything looks normal. There's a couple of extension cords plugged in for some stuff in the chicken coop. And then I noticed that there's a timer, which we keep out there for the winter, to turn the lights on for a couple, 3 hours at night for the chickens so they lay eggs a little better. It seems to help to some degree. And I look at that and I say, okay, well, there's the cord that goes into the light. It seems normal, but there's this other cord plugged in. The kids must have plugged it in there at some point thinking it needed plugged in. It goes to the water heater for the chicken. The heater that sits in the water tank for the chickens. Well, they plugged it in at some point, no big deal. It's up out of the way, whatever. So I come in, play with the breaker again. It seems to still be working. Well, that evening I come out and flip the breaker and boom, it pops it again. I'm like, oh man, are you kidding me? So I go back out the next day and check again outside. And did you see the video with our new dog? Yep, that's Roscoe. He's into everything. That pup, he's a yellow lab, Labrador is probably a better name. That dog gets into everything. He's getting better. You can actually leave him outside. He doesn't chew up everything in sight. He's kind of getting past the chewing stage. But I went out there and checked that extension cord. I noticed something funny. It looked like it was in two pieces. Well, I think he got a hold of it a little bit. And he chewed it enough that it was mainly chewed through. But why it wasn't popping the breaker the rest of the time was it was on that timer. So the only time the timer became active, or that power become active on that circuit, was when the timer sensed that it was nightfall. The timer would come on and blow the fuse or blow the breaker. So I fought that for several days before I figured out that Roscoe. Anyway, that caused me a great deal of stress because I was pretty sure I was going to burn this building down. I was just dreading tearing that wall apart, tearing into that sheetrock to get to that Romex and then having to fix it. The whole thing was just going to be a nightmare. But once I found that, and I made sure to check that very closely to make sure that there was some melted copper in there, to make sure that's what was causing the problem. Sure enough, you could tell where it had been shorted in there, causing the problem. Talk about giving myself terrible dreams and stress over just something pretty simple. But it's funny how little things like that can cause a lot of problems mentally. You're just work yourself into a frenzy worried about something like that. Anyway, what I need your guys' help with, the wife and I have been discussing this off and on. We seem to have a couple different kind of subscribers. Well, actually 3 different kinds of subscribers to the channel. One that really likes mining and history videos, people that like the Homestead and the ham radio stuff, and then the third group likes both. And I think we would do a little better with a channel dedicated to the mining and history. And we've been really thinking about starting a second channel that's dedicated to that. I don't know if we'd move or just copy over all the mine videos to that channel. We may still post some of them on this channel. We haven't really made the decision yet. But where we need help, our creative juices are just not flowing on creating a channel name for that second channel, coming up with something. We could do Ham Homestead too. I want it to be somehow Ham Homestead related. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but somehow related, because all those videos are going to be branded Ham Homestead, all those earlier videos. So we don't want to just like dump it all together, but we're having trouble coming up with something that we could use. So we need your guys' creative juices to flow in the comments. Give us some ideas on what you think would be a good channel name. Give us some feedback too on whether you think a second channel is a good idea or not. I know we've got a lot of people that we get comments and emails. Man, we wish you'd put out some more mining videos. So, or whatever, Homestead videos. So if we had the 2 channels, that's all you would see is that kind of content, the content that you want to see. So again, give us a comment on, is it a good idea? And if so, give us some ideas for channel names, because I'm just drawing a blank. I just really am. I've come up with a couple like a month ago when I first started thinking about this. I've been thinking about it for longer than that. But when I actually started getting more serious, I came up with something. I'm like, oh, that's a great name. This is the middle of the night. Do you think I can remember it? Nope. So give me your ideas. We would really enjoy hearing from you on what you think about this. That's it for the day. Funny story for the day. Puppies. I don't know if I'll ever get another puppy again. Man, they are work. And Labradors, I've never had a lab before. Wow. Pretty intelligent in some ways, in other ways, I'm like, wow. Is there any brain cells in that head of yours? Okay, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.